All right, Tommy, we got some big news for Atlanta United. Familiar face is returning to the ATL. It's hard to believe. It's been, what, 7 years since Tata Martino last managed Atlanta United, and there's been several managers in between. There was Frank de Boer, there was Gonzalo Pineda, there was Gabriel Hante, and Ronnie Dyla, right? Am I missing anybody?
Those were the main ones.
Yeah, and then who was it Rob Valentino?
He took us to the semi-promised land.
The semi promised land. Yeah, so 5 managers, 4 full-time managers. Maybe Rob was interim twice, I think, actually, wasn't he?
He had a couple like small games that he managed, but yeah, that was the big one.
Primary caretaker, right, for Atlanta United. But hey, Tata Martino is here. He will be back in 2026. So let me pull this up real quick and share it with the audience just to show the announcement officially happening that Tata Martino has been named the new head coach through 2027 season. So 2-year deal. This is, like I said, I think it's a big deal. Obviously, with his age, he's 62, 63 years old. Probably not going to commit any further than like maybe 2 years out. But what's your initial thoughts on this, them rehiring the first manager in club history?
It's exciting. I think that the fans are very excited about it. I've heard a lot more positives than negatives because there are some negatives here. You think about just in general with sports when you have players come back to a team and maybe it's not the same expectation that you had, and especially when you just had that with Miguel Almiron and a rough season for him. But this team needs some structure here. The coaches have been in and out nonstop. This team has lacked an identity, an attacking identity, most of the time since Tata has left. You maybe had the year of Giakoumakis and Almada that brought back some excitement to the team, but overall it's been more bad than good. So you're hoping that he's able to come in here, bring back some of the excitement to this team, which the excitement was this team was the leading goal scoring team that, while he was here. It was fantastic. It was exciting to watch. That's how I got into MLS, was turn on a couple Atlanta United games and go, this isn't like any other team that's in the league. This is exciting. You got Joseph Martinez scoring hat tricks left and right. And I'm sure you're probably going to ask me a question about him coming up here soon, but this team needs this right now for one reason. And I think I brought this up in your chat about maybe a month ago when there was a rumor that Tata was going to LAFC. Is right now Atlanta United is missing Garth Lagerwey. He's taking care of himself. He's been fighting cancer, so he's taken another hiatus. Chris Henderson right now is running the show. And if you think about what Tata did when Atlanta United came in, he helped form this team. He brought players in. He's got a sticker book of cards of players that he likes, and he pulls them out and says, you go get them. He's not going to be able to do that exactly because all the DP spots are filled. The roster is, you got some open spots, but you don't got a lot of money to really to get big name players here. But I think if he can create that culture and get some guys in here, specifically a good left winger, I think this attack is going to be dangerous, and you will stop harassing me about Latte Lath and his lack of scoring.
Real quick, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you guys give us a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're live. We're breaking down Tata Martino officially going back to Atlanta United, which is a big deal. We got Tommy talking with us. He's a good friend of the show. He's been here several times, and I know that this is probably one of the happiest times he's been on the show in a while. Tommy, when they hired Tata Martino, I was so excited back in 2016 when they announced him. And then obviously 2017 was his first year. I posted this. He brought the first real South American style to MLS. I would honestly say Tata Martino really started the South American revolution in MLS. They signed, obviously, Miggy. He was one of the first DP in Atlanta United history. They brought in Joseph Martinez. All these Tito Villalba which is another name I haven't heard in a long time. But I mean, he was part of the first team, and all these players just brought a different style, and they were all young. We hadn't seen that before in MLS. Talented players, South American players that were young and not past their prime. So I feel like he is just so instrumental in the history of Major League Soccer and helped changing it. But to your point, though, of what you just brought up, this team doesn't have a lot of roster flexibility. They're kind of hamstrung with their DPs, Miranchuk, and then Miguel Almiron's obviously not going anywhere. Latte Lot probably isn't going to go anywhere. Maybe they could loan him out, but I think with what they paid for him, it probably wouldn't be ideal. They probably would want to give him at least one more year or half a season. I'm just wondering because Tata does like his own players. He likes to kind of rebuild the roster. We saw that in Inter Miami. How many players did he get rid of and then bring in to change this team? And like you said, the Rolodex, or I can't remember what you said about, but the players he knows, right? The guy is not just a good manager; he's a hell of a scout. He has a great eye for talent. And who was the striker? Was it Kenwyn Jones? He was one of the first players that they signed. And then before he was even hired, and he's like, nah, he doesn't really fit he's not going to work. So maybe when he comes in here, he can move off of some players. I'll be curious to see, because we know that this is probably one of the least South American oriented teams that Atlanta United has had. So we know he's going to bring some South American flair to this team. I'm just going to be curious to see how he does it and what he does.
So look at the right back situation with Brooks Lennon. He's very likely going to be out here. They have an option on him. They're not gonna pick that up there. And then the left wing has been the problem the entire season. They went back and forth with moving Miguel Almiron and Saba back and forth, trying to find something to work. But the talent for Saba is on the right wing. He's a TAM player here. 0 goals in MLS this season, insane. If you would have told me that he would score 0, I would say I bet the whole 401k that he's going to score at least 1. And he didn't, and it was because he belongs on the right. Also, there was a lot of other issues with this team in general, but still, you need someone legit to play on the left. Right now, Luke Brennan, a homegrown, is basically what you have over there, a true left wing. You need to go out there, and that's why I think Saba is going to be a casualty of this team, because I do think he would be a great person in a Tata Martino offense. However, you got Miggy. He's probably not moving to the 10. I don't think he's going to end up moving there. I do wonder what Alexei Miranchuk what Tata is gonna think of him. I think a lot of people don't think that they're really going to get along here. So when you talk about that, I do think that if there's a casualty of the DPs, it has to be him. The other two, you're just not going to move on from. So I am very curious to see if that would be a change this season, because you got 2 years.
Well, yeah, and also too, I think that he, to your point, would be the easiest to move off of. I can't remember what he's making off the top of my head, but I know that Miggy's making close to $8 million a year. No one's going to be taking him on loan, if I'm not mistaken. Was it over? I know it was a crazy. He's like a top 5 highest paid player in the league, and
Wild.
And then Latte Lot is just they paid way too much just to give him away, so that's just not going to happen. So Miranchuk is going to be the $6 million.
I think it's $6 million with 2 years left.
For Miggy?
For Alexi.
For Alexi.
6.5 for the next 2 years.
Okay. So he's going to be the easiest one to move. And we know Arthur Blank has the money. If they need to get rid of him, they can, or they just loan him out. That way it opens up a DP spot. So he makes the most sense. And then how many U22 spots do you guys have open right now? I think Tommy froze.
Oh, I'm back?
Your face. Okay, you're good now. Yep, you're good.
Okay. So we have 2 currently.
2 U20, and we know he loves his U22s. Diego Gomez was an absolute gem he found in Paraguay. Came over here, balled out for a year and a half, gets sold for a club record fee to go to Brighton, and he's been balling out in the Premier League. So he can do a lot of damage too with his U22. So that helps as well. If they can't move off Miranchuk, at least they have some flexibility with those 2 spots to bring in some a youth movement, and maybe that South American flair we talk about. So let me ask you this. Let's talk about Tata Martino himself. Why? Okay, obviously he is a very accomplished manager. He has won an MLS Cup, but Ronnie Deila is also won an MLS Cup. What do you think is going to be the main difference between? And look, I know Tata Martino's better, but it's been years since he's coached his team. It's a completely different roster, right? What is the biggest difference you think going to be between Tata 2.0 and Ronnie Deila of 2025?
I don't think Tata is going to lose the locker room within 2 to 3 months. I just don't see that happening there. I think with Ronnie Deila, that when he came on, I think I was just scared in general because his New York FC record was okay, but I mean, when you looked at it before they won MLS Cup, he was on the hot seat. He could have been fired. They were on a long losing streak. They played Atlanta, beat Atlanta, and then they went on and won it. And I don't believe in the COVID year talk. Like everybody's like, oh, the Lakers won it during a COVID year. I don't believe any of that. But what I will say is that it seemed like nobody was responding. Nobody, not a single player was responding to Ronnie Deila here. And I think Tata, with the respect that he has, everything that he's done, I think, especially with this club, the history with this club, he's going to be just fine. But he's going to have to get in a couple people, his guys, like you said, a couple of his guys to help recreate that culture. Because what was really great about Atlanta United, and it wasn't just the South American players. It seemed like those teams early on were well connected. You go on Instagram, those guys were out together all the time, out to dinner. And you could tell that that team had always just had been a unit off the field, on the field. Everybody was in sync. It hasn't felt like that in a long time with this team, with Gonzalo Pineda, with Ronnie. It just has not felt like this has been like a team that likes each other. I guess that's maybe just the way to look at it. It just didn't seem like when you watch I mean, if you had the power to watch Atlanta United, if you're not an Atlanta United fan, I don't blame you if you watched 0 games this year because most of them were absolutely terrible. It looked like these guys didn't know each other on the field at all. Nobody knew where the other person wanted to pass. It just looked like it was a bunch of random guys. It was like an all-star game where everybody goes out there and a lot of people don't know where everyone's going, but you have no all-stars out there. It's just like all bad players. That's what it felt like. It was just like a random pickup game that you watched, and the other team would just pick them apart because nobody knew what the other guy was doing.
Well, you mentioned earlier about Joseph. So he would obviously be a guy they could bring in that would, it would be nostalgic. He would help with the culture. He's good. He's really has a good working relationship with Tata Martino. He had the most success of his career under Tata Martino, 31 goals, I think, in 2018 when he won MVP and you guys won MLS Cup. Is there any other players that I'm trying to think of? Maybe some. Obviously, Brad Guzan played for him. He's retiring at the end of this year. Is there any other players out there who they could bring back that wouldn't be just an absolute disaster signing for the culture?
Everybody's been talking about on Twitter about who could you bring back? Franco Escobar, Parkhurst just retweeted that he's done. He's not coming back. I don't know how much deeper you want to get into bringing back older players here. The Joseph Martinez situation is interesting because last year he was a free agent when he went over to San Jose, and you looked at that and said, I don't think it's fair to Latte Loth to bring him in here because you bring in record signing. If he starts having a bad couple games, and he had a ton of them, everyone's going to start chanting for Joseph, and this guy is going to be like, why am I here? The fans don't want me. They want Joseph here. This just isn't going to work. I do think there's a world where Joseph Martinez could work here, but it also depends on the money that you spend on him. Like if you can't have $1 million TAM player coming in here to be your backup, like it's not going to work unless you're going to play 2 up top. I don't know what Tata's going to want to do here, but it is an interesting story here. And, Joseph's getting older every year. Coming back onto turf is a little bit scary as well for having him come back to Atlanta. I think if he could take a hometown discount and be that backup, sure, go for it.
So he's pretty much the only one, unless, maybe I'm trying to think of maybe some Miami players he could bring with him. Now, I know it's not Atlanta, but it's culture that he had built in Miami. And maybe he can bring some guys over that can kind of help implement it and just build like a strong foundation for this team, kind of like what you said, that Deila and Pineda just did not have that here in Atlanta. And that was kind of their undoing. I think that, okay, so
Oh,
this
Gressel.
is
You want to talk one? Julian Gressel. You want to go trade for Julian Gressel? I mean, I don't. I'm not serious about it, but like if you're looking at guys that are still here, you're looking at Escobar is actually. I mean, I think he just signed a contract uh, in the summer, so he's not
yeah.
available. But if you're looking for a guy that's still in MLS, I mean, Julian Gressel is probably the only guy I could really think about that's still there and has maybe not been able to find a where he was with Atlanta. I mean, that he was king in Atlanta, and he was a fan favorite. Let me tell you, everybody loved that man. He was Atlanta United early on. When they won MLS Cup, he immediately grabbed it and took it straight to the supporters. And that was that's something that stuck with me since that day.
D Life brings up an interesting question, but I want to ask you this real quick because this is, it's just hard to believe sometimes how these things come full circle. If I had told you 5 years ago that in 2026, Tata Martino would return to be the Atlanta United coach and that Miguel Almiron would also return to Atlanta United to be a DP. Because if I said he came back, you would maybe think, okay, well, maybe his stint in England was a disaster and he's just coming back to the U.S. with his tail tucked between his legs and it was bad. But no, it was pretty successful, not horrible. It was pretty decent stint in at Newcastle. What would your thoughts have been if I told you that 5 years ago they would both be back in 2026?
You copied my EAFC career mode. That's what
Yeah.
you did. You just copied that. It would have been no way. You didn't think Tata was coming back because when Tata left, I mean, there was talks that his wife didn't want to live in Atlanta. I think that was the rumor there, so he wanted to move on. And then with Miguel Almiron, you didn't think he was going to come back here at any time. And if he did, the question would be how good is he? And we've kind of learned maybe it's not fair because he didn't have a rest. I mean, and you talk about it all the time, the MLS schedule and the Premier League schedule and how that all works there. I mean, you look at Latte Latte, look at Miguel Almiron, they had no rest. They just went right into the MLS season. So that's what Chris Henderson's trying to tell us is that these guys are getting a long rest here and that they're going to be ready to go. I do think it's going to be better. I do think. I mean, you think about Latte Latte's speed and then what Joseph Martinez did with his speed on that team, and like Joseph Martinez wasn't insanely fast, but he had some pace to him. Latte Latte, I think, could definitely beat him in a race in his prime there. I think they should be using him the way that they use Joseph, and hopefully here that works here but Latte Latte still missed a lot of balls. He just missed the net a lot last season. So maybe maybe just confidence being in an offense that is playing to your strengths will work for these guys.
Yeah, I'm not all the way out on Latte Latte. I just think that I just had some reservations about him, and Dyla is just such a. I like the hire at first, but he's very inconsistent. I think Tata Martino, if anyone can get the best out of Latte Latte, it's Tata Martino. So we will find out for sure if he's going to sink or swim with the new coach. But real quick, I want to hit these 2 points. Wade said, so this is the missing piece for Atlanta. They just need a proven coach for their club. I think that they still need a lot of other things besides that. But to Wade's point, though, the proven coach can help get these changes and knows how to fix this team and what they need. And I think that could be the difference maker in 2026. Like I fully, Tommy, preseason, I expected this team to be top 3 in the East. They spent the money, they had the talent, at least at the time. They beat Miami in the first round in last year in 2024. We thought with Miguel Almiron returning, Emmanuel Latte Latte, Ronnie Dyla hopefully not being we thought he wasn't as competent as he actually was, that there was no way that they would be bad, and they stunk the joint up.
And it didn't start that way. Like early on the season, they looked dangerous, but they just weren't putting the ball in the net. And it was like it's gonna eventually come. And then it all of a sudden went from like an offense that looked dangerous but wasn't scoring to not dangerous and not scoring. And that was terrible here. You look at this right now in a project. What's your first year going to be? Because every year the front office is going to tell you they want a top 4 seed. You want home advantage in the first round. And that's what Atlanta's been selling us for years. All I want them to tell us this season is 2 things. We're going to make the playoffs, which shouldn't that be? I know the East is hard. It is it's the most difficult conference, but almost everybody makes it. You should be making that. And I just want to sit down at 7:00, 7:30 every Saturday and not hate myself for 90 minutes watching this team play unwatchable soccer. I just want to be able to watch a team that looks like they know what they're doing, and it's been a very long time since we've seen that.
Yeah, and by the way, D Life had a good shout too. Maybe Robert Taylor could be someone they could pull over. I mean, he was very effective under Tata at Inter Miami. He was a throwaway for Miami this year. They traded him to Austin FC. I don't know how many years he has left on his deal or if he signed a new contract with Austin off the top of my head, but that could be someone they could bring in for the culture, someone who played a year and a half under Tata Martino. I agree with you completely. I think this is exactly what they need. I think Tata Martino is arguably the best manager in the league. Now, some people might be upset with that and say he failed in Miami, but I think when you look at the job with Miami, it's very complicated. He's dealing with some insanely big egos, not just superstars. We're talking global stars. We're talking about the best player of all time and a lot of Barcelona players who, I heard that Tata Martino is a very, very, I don't want to say strict, but he has a standard, right? And if it's not met, he's going to let you know. And I think some of the players there who have these higher statuses, like a Jordi Alba, reportedly got into heated exchanges with him because he didn't want to be told what to do. But that's just what Tata Martino is going to do. He's going to push you. He's going to try to get the most out of you. So I think that the job he was put in control of with Miami is very difficult. He won the Supporters Shield. It wasn't now, obviously, to your enjoyment, they did get bounced in the first round by Atlanta, but I think that was more of like just Atlanta was playing insane, like the momentum that they had and the way they were playing, like they were a man on a mission. So I wouldn't say that was Tata Martino's fault because they were playing good all season long. He just had one bad run, and I don't think that should like completely determine that he's or say that he's a wash manager because of one bad showing.
I mean, the team Miami looked exhausted in that playoff series, and that's what I've been talking about all this season is how is Miami going to manage these players throughout the season? Because yeah, I mean, you win the Supporters Shield, okay, you've won that, you've won Leagues Cup, but now you got to win MLS Cup, and when you got some older players, you definitely have to manage their time in a schedule that could be very compact at certain times of the season.
Yeah, and also too, I want to say this to close it out, and I want to get your final thoughts because like I said, I think it's a big deal, and I think you guys should be very happy that you. I don't know how serious the LAFC rumors were for Tata Martino because I think their general manager really likes to have a stranglehold on the roster selections and stuff and moves, and I think Tata, you got to give him a little bit of say on some of the guys he brings in. You can't just give him pieces; he's got to have his blueprint on this or he's not gonna have as much success as he probably would in other circumstances. But I think that I want to get your final grade on this hire. I want to know what would you give this? Is this your like if of all the managers that this team could have realistically hired, is this the best hire they could have made?
At this time, yes,
Yeah.
because of the scouting option as well to be able to help Chris out. And again, they work together in Miami as well. So you're missing out on the Garth Chris relationship right now because Garth is out, but now you've got a Chris and Tata relationship. And with a team that needs to be revamped in a lot of places, I think this is a perfect time to be able to recreate your identity and what you want.
I didn't even think about that for a second because Chris Henderson obviously moved from Inter Miami earlier this offseason or earlier, the end of last year, at the beginning of this season. I wonder if that played a role too because they already did have a working relationship. I didn't really think about that. Do you think that Chris Henderson's the one who made this hire?
Maybe.
Because obviously Garth, like you said, he's away from the team. He's probably not really consuming this at the moment. He's focusing on his health. I mean, maybe Arthur Blank made this decision, but I would feel like Chris Henderson
Nah.
probably had the most say in this just because they have a working relationship and they know that he had success at Atlanta before.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And when you need to get someone in here and your last coach that you brought in was a failure, I mean, it was a mega failure. Second last in the league, almost getting the wooden spoon. You can't mess this up. Now, people have complained it's a 2-year contract. A lot of coaches come in 2 years, and look, I know. I think I looked up. He's 62, I think
Yeah.
it was, and he's turning 63 in a couple weeks. I looked up to see Bruce Arena. He's 70. He's gonna be 75 this week.
It's
That's
crazy, isn't
wild.
it?
That's wild that he's still there. But man, I mean, that was a fun team to watch with San Jose all year. But I think if the things are going well in 2 years, you can keep him here for maybe another or 2. I know he doesn't do that. Usually it's 2 years and I'm out. But I think when he left Atlanta, there was some things that were going on in the background with Carlos Bocanegra and some the fighting. You talk about fighting about players and roster. There was something there. There was absolutely something there towards it. He didn't want Ezequiel Barco. And I don't think he was that pumped for Pity Martinez coming in as well. And both of those guys were very had more downs than ups with the club.
Real quick to hit on Pity Martinez, because that was a guy that I thought maybe he had wanted, and obviously he had left before he even got to coach Pity Martinez. That was Frank DeBoer. I always do wonder if that would have went down a little differently if he'd played in a system that was more favorable to his playing style. That is one of the bigger questions I will have. In the sad downfall of Pity Martinez, because he was good, man. He was the South American Player of the Year at River Plate. He had a lot of potential. Hell of a replacement on paper for losing Miguel Almiron. That was a great replacement. It just didn't work out. So real quick, I got 2 final things. Well, I want to say this real quick too. Everything I was told, Tommy, is that Tata Martino was forced out at Miami just because of the butting of heads with the Barca boys, and that it just wasn't going to work out. They wanted to get someone in there who was more, I don't want to say lenient, but someone who is going to kind of like not be down their throat a lot. As much as Tata Martino is. And that's what they did. They hired their former buddy, Javier Mascherano, to coach the team. So a lot of people say it's health. Like, I was told he was forced out. I mean, he did technically, they parted ways, but I was told he was forced out. He was not going to be able to coach Miami in 2025, which big mistake by them looking back on it. Tata Martino has played both styles with Inter Miami. He's played both styles with Atlanta United. He's been a 4-3-3. We've seen him play 5 out of the back. What are you thinking? Do you think he's going to be flexible and probably do both? Or do you think he will go to his iconic 4-3-3?
I honestly have no idea at this moment with the roster and what the decisions are going to be made. We actually on Scarves and Spikes yesterday started talking about all of the player options that they have, and I think a lot of them are obvious. But you got 2 buyouts this year, which is I like now in MLS because it gives you a couple. Oops, we messed up. Let's fix this quick. And if there's a guy that's got money to go and just cut a player, like you said earlier, like say just nobody wants Alexi here, and you just want to say I'll throw the $13 million away. He's a guy that can do it. He will be able to do that. And if you are on a 2-year window here, you're looking for success and you're looking for a quick ramp up. I wouldn't be shocked if they go and maybe make a couple of those bold moves to be able to free some money up here so that by time you get through the summer transfer window, you're really vibing and you can make a run this year. And then next season, because it's usually how it is, like nobody brings in a coach and it's usually, from second worst to first. That doesn't really happen here. But the expectations are going to be high this season. But next season's really, we're going to say, that's when you need to be going into the preseason as an MLS contender.
Yeah, I think this will be probably an experimental season to see what they need truly, or like just figure out what pieces work, what don't work. But I'll have 2. I do think that they will loan out Miranchuk. I don't think they're going to buy him out. Too expensive. I think they're just going to probably loan him out to free up at least a DP spot. That's one of my takes. And I do think they're going to fill both U22 spots in this winter window. I think they're going to do that. Loan out Miranchuk. Now, I'm not saying they're going to sign a DP immediately, but I do think they're going to try to move off of him so they can have that flexibility to bring in a marquee player to play in his system, because I just don't think Miranchuk's going to mesh well with Tata Martino. But Tommy, this is an incredible hire. Atlanta United all the fans should be excited. We'll see what happens 2026. A great manager is back in MLS. We'll see if he can win. I think they're going to make the playoffs in 2026. And then, like you said, 2027 is where the MLS Cup trophy hunt officially starts. Before I let you go, where can the people find your show? Where can they follow you out on X?
Find me at TommyATL96 and find us at scarvesandspikes.com.
Tommy, I appreciate it, my friend. Guys, if you made it to the end, make sure you give us a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. MLS Cup Playoffs is going to be back this Saturday. You're not going to miss it. We're going to do a watch-along for Inter Miami and Nashville SC Game 3. We know Tommy is probably – actually, I don't know who he's pulling for, because I think he hates both teams equally. So maybe he's happy or sad either way. You guys aren't going to
go Nashville.
Go Nashville. 2 years in a row of early exit for Inter Miami would be crazy. But we're doing a watch along for that game. You won't want to miss that. So hit that little bell notification so you never miss any of our videos or live watch alongs. Until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.
See ya.